How's it going, guys? It's Mr. Lone Wolf, and today I'm going to go on to another contract. This one's called High Voltage. Again, it's a bit awkward to read them, but yeah, I need to go and take 2 metal beams and 2 lots of consumables to. It's like a downed power line that's on the Institute map. I'm going to set off from the Crossroads map. I've got to go and grab a trailer from the trailer store, and then up to the gateway, over across the Institute map. And I've started off from Crossroads, because then I'll pop out here, and the materials I need to get are at that warehouse there. And then follow the main road kind of all the way along, really, for the most part anyway. There's a few off-road bits, and yeah, there's a pylon in the top corner. And that's why, considering there was a fair amount of highway driving, I figured I'd get this GMC 9500 out, which originally, like, if you had this game back when it first sort of came out, this was a highway truck. Well, it still is a highway truck, but it didn't have, I don't think it had all-wheel drive, and I can't even remember if it had diffs or not. I think it was mainly the all-wheel drive, to be fair. It may have had diffs, but just on like the rear wheels. Yeah, ever since it was in phase 1 or season, whatever the hell it's called, Lake Coved and Imandra, they added a couple of different upgrades, and one of them was for this, and it was the all-wheel drive option. It's on Lake Coved, kind of nearish to the TUZ 16 or whatever it is where you get that from. Yeah, and ever since they added all-wheel drive, it just became like a very decent truck. It's not going to, you know, win like the best truck in the game or anything like that. Stuff like the Taiga, the Vorons, even other six-wheeled stuff like that's going to walk all over it. And then you got, yeah, Dolphin, Bruce, the Clobs, all that sort of stuff. But originally, the 3 highway vehicles, again, they're not terrible. The Transstar suffers because it's a really small vehicle, so it's got relatively tiny tyres, the bumper sits really low and all the rest of it. The Ford Clip 9000 is better because it's a bit of a bigger vehicle and all the rest of it. But yeah, they were a little bit, you know, they're fine obviously going along the highway, and they've got nice steering, they drive along very nicely on the highway and all the rest of it. But as soon as you got to some off-roading, they just completely threw in the towel, were struggling, and there was never really much reason to sort of go and take them on a mission you're going to do, even if most of the journey was kind of roads or very light dirt roads. You're always going to get to one point where it was going to catch you out a little bit. But yeah, when they finally added all-wheel drive to this thing, they didn't rebalance the vehicle to take into account that it's now been given something extra like all-wheel drive, so the vehicle's kind of balanced with in mind that it's only rear-wheel drive and all the rest of it. Yeah, so once it added that, it just took quite a step up in like how well the trucks perform. And again, I mean, it's not one of the best trucks in the game, but it's decent, and especially for the money. And if you are kind of newer to the game, I know you're going to have to at least have the first phase or whatever it is of DLC to go and get the upgrade. There is, by the way, this is a little bit of a cheat workaround I've heard. I don't know if this still works, but if you've got this game and you haven't got the DLC, but you've got a friend that has got the DLC, I believe you can join them online, and if you collect the all-wheel drive from their map, you'll then have it as well. Again, don't quote me on it, but it's just one of them. If any of you are in that situation, it might be worth seeing if you can do it or not. Yeah, so cutting across to the trade store, it's pretty simple so far. I just quickly got a maintenance trailer just to fix my truck up, because I took a few hits on the way. And yeah, then grabbed a 4-slot ramped flatbed. Gonna have to put my faith in this trailer again. Although, like I say, recently this trailer's been pretty good to me, touch wood. So I'm, I don't know. Yeah, I sort of don't mind using it as much, even though I used it all the time anyway, just because I like having the sideboard and put a goddamn professional in there. But yeah, I used to use it rather reluctantly, whereas these days it's I don't know. It's being fair. I mean, it's still not the most amazing trailer. It's still a complete pain in the arse if you ever have to reverse it or turn around, do a U-turn, all that sort of stuff. But yeah, just for randomly flipping and tipping all your cargo over the place, it seems to have stopped doing that these days. And then going along roads like this, obviously, once I'm off the actual proper roads, yeah, seeing how well this thing will do along the dirt roads. There, though, I was cutting along the edge. I mean, one nice thing, it's a fairly compact, small kind of truck, so you can even see with a loaf in the back. It's not that much wider, really. So at least when you're going along like certain sections, you mostly should be able to like skirt your way up the edges and kind of go around the little grass verges and all that. Even like usually the gaps between the road and you can see like that telegraph pole there, there's enough room to squeeze this truck along like the grass verge. And another nice thing is it stays in high gear pretty well. Even going through that bit I just went through just before I jumped over like the rail tracks, that gets a bit boggier and holds you back more. And this thing does get stuck, like it definitely gets to sections where it's just going to wheel spin in high gear and you're best off dropping down into auto or the low gears. But I tend to like vehicles that will wheel spin instead of stall when you're in high gear. And obviously if it's going to wheel spin, you're still in the same situation, you may as well drop it out of high gear. But for one, you don't lose all your momentum, secondly you don't risk stalling, and yeah, it's just a bit cleaner and neater. As I was going along now as well, I noticed a few times, just seeing how well it plays out on like the recorded video, but yeah, I've been getting hit with a bit of lag again these days, which seems to have been dialed up a bit in the last week or two. Unless it's just me, unless I was getting lucky before, but I've noticed it, yeah, like there it's doing it a bit. I think it's particularly when I go through like muddy sections like that and you can see the mud splashing up. I don't think it likes that. There is a fuel station there, I did see it, I did kind of acknowledge it. I looked at it, yeah, but I've got faith in my loaf. Goddamn horse, he'll get me to where I need to go. And overall, this first part of the mission, like driving through the Institute map, was yeah, pretty simple. I've not got any cargo or any weight. Well, I mean the loaf again, he's weightless unless he needs to be a weight distribution loaf. Then he magically gains mass. It's getting a bit of a lean on. That's the one thing I would say about this vehicle. I wouldn't say it's tippy, but I wouldn't say it's pretty resistant to tipping. It's one of them, if you go enough, it is going to go. It'd be nice, maybe if the sort of axles sat a tiny bit wider, but it is what it is. Like I said, for the money of this vehicle, it's one of the cheaper vehicles in the game, really. It's probably around the same price as the Lo4f, to be honest. Right, so on the Institute map, the warehouse to get the stuff is in here. The reason I've drawn a loop like with a line and gone that way is because I want to turn that corner without any cargo on the trailer, and then once I load up it's just a straight line back out the yard. If I went round that way, you know, load it up first, go around that U-bend, it's doubtful, but just to reduce that risk. And then yeah, mostly following along the roads, kind of around that bridge, and then this last little section is a bit of hefty off-roading like as you go off the road, and then it's also uphill. But yeah, that's one of the reasons why I chose this vehicle for this mission, because I could have drawn a different route up to the top corner, but the road makes the most sense, and yeah, like I say, it's a highway vehicle, don't get to use them that often. But out of the three highway vehicles, I'd definitely be picking this, even though I do like the other one, the Ford Clip 9000. I just think this one's more, it's got more options. You can have a crane on it, and the sideboard, fuel, repair body, all that sort of stuff. So obviously when I'm getting here, I'm going to have 2 lots of metal beams and then 2 lots of consumables, so in theory I need to move my Lo4f, which I always am fine with that in theory, and then when it gets to actually doing it I get incredibly sentimental and attached. Yeah, so stick the metal beams on the trailer, no reason in particular, just I suppose they have 2 slot each and there's 2 of them, so that fills the trailer up. Detach the trailer though, back the sideboard up to like the trailer a bit, reverse, jump the Lo4f out of there. He gets a victory horn for that, he deserves it. And then now consumables. I couldn't even quite, that's why I'm flinging the camera around now, trying to read what it's saying in the top corner, just so I don't take the wrong stuff. And then yeah, now in theory I was going to jump the Lo4f back onto the consumables, but then I decided this trailer's not being as much of a dick as it used to be. This truck is a little on the tippy side. Again, not crazy, but once now I've got cargo and then a Lo4f on top of that, it'd probably be a little top heavy and wobbly. So yeah, reconnect to the trailer and just pack the Lo4f. And if I'd planned on doing that in the first place, I probably would have reversed the Lo4f a little bit further back down the trailer. Just the Lo4f sat right on the front at the minute, which is not the end of the world. The bad side of that is kind of the weight sat right over that front dolly axle, which particularly when you turn and the dolly axle kind of tucks under the trailer, it could probably get a little bit wobbly. The good news with that though is if I want to use any fuel or whatever from the loaf, it's still within reach of the truck, so I don't have to kind of like unpack it and drive it near or do any of that stuff. And you can see now, when you're actually driving along the highway, yeah, it does suit it very well. It picks up the speed fairly decently, considering it's not the most powerful vehicle in the game. It's not even S Plus on the power. I believe it was A Plus, so it's like a notch or two off the top. But yeah, still decent, and the steering's quite nice. It always has been on the highway vehicles, so even when you're picking up a bit of speed, they're not really twitchy or anything like that. Again, one thing it's a bit of a shame is this has not got any kind of mud tyres. Just practically all the American trucks don't have, except the A&K and the twin steer. I think that's the only ones. I went for those UOD 2 tyres, which I've heard before, you know, out of the selection you've got, are pretty decent. You can see there's like a swampy patch in the road there. It was struggling a little bit, but again, with this kind of vehicle, mostly highway driving, I don't mind dropping it down into low range with the diffs on and stuff. It wasn't too keen on firing back into high gear. You can see though, it bleeds without the diffs on. Sometimes like different axles sort of are just wheel spinning and bleeding some of your speed and power, but eventually we got it back there. It might be a thumbnail going on there. And yeah, like even round there, as silly as it sounds, just the steering's nice, so it's not twitchy. Other vehicles that are like, you know, beefy off-road vehicles like the Tayga and stuff, they're obviously would eat this thing for breakfast as far as like off-roading goes, but yeah, when you're steering along the road they can be a little bit twitchy. On the left hand side. The old British way, although saying that, as soon as there's a corner we go for them Lo4f racing lines. I'm paying road tax, I'm taking up the whole road. Do you know what, we have road tax over here. I can't remember if I said this before, but it was a rip-off. Yeah, back a few years ago when me and my brother both had an M5 each. His was a 55 plate, which means it was made in late 2005 or maybe early 2006. Mine was an 06 plate, so it was made early to mid kind of 2006. And there was yeah, road tax. So there was like a new thing they introduced after 2006 where they just charge you more money for the same fucking thing basically. So yeah, my brother's car, he paid like 50 quid a year in road tax, and mine was about 55 quid a month for road tax. So yeah, it was getting on for like 600 odd quid a year just to road tax. Another, yeah, they take the word tax and then they put a word in front of it and then go, see, now it exists. That's pretty much I'd say that's got to be the government's main job, is let's think of words we can put in front of the word tax and then charge people for inventing that word. Funnily enough, like normally when you let go of the throttle, and this is usually no different, as soon as you let go of the throttle in auto, the truck drops down to first, and it's usually a pain in the ass. That's one of the reasons I like going in high gear. And then yeah, when I got to there, I actually let off the accelerator thinking it'd rolled to a nice gradual stop, and the thing was it was picking up some right speed as I was swerving off the road there. It was still alright though, no tipping or anything. And then yeah, these are the sort of sections where the vehicle's going to feel it a little bit. I mean, it's not too bad. It's got 47-inch tyres, which is not terrible for the size of the vehicle and all the rest of it. I still prefer, yeah, stuff like the Vorons, the Tayga, the Dolphin. They've sort of got 50-odd inch tyres. Another vehicle I nearly used for this today was Dan. I was in the mood for driving that, but again, as it was mostly highway, I just kind of figured it'd be a little bit of a waste. And I've not cracked this vehicle out for a little while, so it was a good excuse to use it. But already, I'll kind of blame it a little bit on this vehicle. It's obviously stuck on one of these tree branches, but I will say in its defence, these tree branches are completely ridiculous in this phase. But I have drove over here in other vehicles that have kind of made it the whole way, so they must have got over this a little better. But yeah, I kind of did a winch from the corner of the trailer to the same tree I'm stuck on. See if we can confuse the physics. I've got past that bit. I think now, though, it might be the trailer that is now stuck on the same bloody branch. Thankfully, there is a couple of different downed trees along there, so there's another one a little further up. Takes a bit of tugging, that's what she said. It might have been the front axle on that trailer that was kind of wedged against the rock a bit there as well. I think there is the tree branch being a dick as well. And then now I'm caught on the tree. I just used the winch to get myself that far. So I did a winch from the other side of the corner of the trailer to the same tree. It's one of them where, thankfully, even though the winches are not as good as they used to be, it still just about winds up enough tension between them that it sort of, yeah, levers me over the same thing I'm stuck on. You can tell now though, this vehicle, it's a little bit on the slow side, but I don't mind it. Felt kind of like a bit old school SnowRunner back when we had yeah, all like just non-upgraded stuff and all the rest of it. And to its credit, it did get out of there. Little help from the winch, but that's not the first time. It won't be the last. And like I say, at least with these maps, they give you a lot more chance to use these kind of vehicles, because in that Burning Mill, the last phase, for example, you bring out this truck on there, every 2 minutes you'd just be using the winch, and I don't really want to end up, you know, becoming like Winch Runner instead of SnowRunner. I actually want a vehicle that can climb its way through some stuff. The winch is, I don't mind it as a last resort, and you know, here and there it sort of suits the game nicely, but yeah, if you're using it every 2 seconds just to climb along a whole section of the road, it can get a little bit repetitive. So I'm flying in here in high gear. I didn't think that'd last too long. It kind of bled my speed pretty quickly with the boggy mud. Down into low range though, diffs on. I knew this would be a bit of a slow section. Thankfully the whole section isn't actually like this boggy. Now I've got to start turning to avoid that bloody tree. And yeah, this is kind of like pretty much the limits of the vehicle really, which is not terrible. It's got 2 lots of cargo on its sideboard. It's got a ramped flatbed, a full trailer, a goddamn horse, although he's weightless. I think as well the single axle, particularly at the front of the ramped flatbed, really doesn't help. If it had a double axle, it'd kind of spread the weight a little bit, but those front wheels do dig in quite a lot. You can see it back from when I crossed that river section a minute ago. Yeah, the front wheels were kind of catching on that rock, and that in its own right was creating a bit of a problem. They tend to catch on stuff rather than roll over stuff, so they can be a little bit of a pain in the arse. Again though, with this section, thankfully, there are various downed trees along the way that you can kind of use to help yourself get along a bit. In theory, I could also veer off to the left or right. I kind of purposely wanted to drive for this section just to see how good or bad the vehicle holds up, but yeah, if I wasn't making a video and I don't know, I was trying to do like a speed run or something, I wouldn't have even turned like on this road. I would have either cut in early and basically gone up the right hand side, or turned late and gone through the trees to the left, and then just joined the road back like behind that pylon. Bit of winch action though, and we'll get there. Like I say, little sections like this, it is actually driving under its own steam at this point. And to be fair, if you were going to do like a mission where you're going to, you know, there's a fair chunk of the mission that's going to be this kind of terrain, it'd probably be worth putting the off-road gearbox in, because at least then once you've got the diffs on, you've got like 3 lots of low gears, the high, low, medium, low and low, low, as I call them. Because even though the when you go into low range with this, with the diffs on, it's not bad, it keeps going, but it does feel like it'd be nice if there was a little bit more power, which I assume if you had 3 low ranges and you put it in high-low, that'd be the case. But I have no regrets, because the majority of this mission, I was able to just sit in high gear kind of all the way along the Crossroads map for the majority of the Institute map. And yeah, I just like the amount of power and speed and all the rest of it you get with the high-range gear with a high-range gearbox. Again though, a bit of winch from the trailer to that tree, just because the loaf and the trailer were leaning a little bit to the right, so it kind of worked as a double advantage. And you see that tree in the way now, I managed to run over it, and it kind of, the root bowl thing sort of phased through my tyres, so I thought I'd get away with it. But sadly the trailer started catching. You see, this is the point where you really don't want to reverse this thing, because once that dolly axle kind of tucks underneath the trailer, it can get pretty wobbly. Yeah, so unfortunately I got caught for about, I only edited about 30 seconds out there. It was just, I just kept trying to ram it again. That's what she said. Yeah, in the end I stuck a winch from like the back of the trailer this time to the same tree that I'm kind of getting stuck on. And yeah, thankfully it did the job. Once I got to this point, now I'm in auto, there's just, it's probably not enough power from this vehicle, but there's definitely, compared to back in the day with the game, you used to be able to just mash L1 and it'd kind of jump up the gears. You could at least have a chance of getting in high gear, whereas yeah, this thing was just kind of auto capped in first gear, so it wasn't going to let me do a lot. Well, sometimes it was even best to just go into the low range gears. I think around now I'll start running out of fuel, which I'm sure it started spluttering pretty easy. You can see the rear tyres juddering. I assume that's from the fuel, which, yeah, considering what is there, still 10 odd litres or whatever it is. But anyway, you see, that's the nice thing with the loaf being at the front of the trailer. I could still reach it, so even just like refueling, I didn't use the loaf's roof rack, I just kind of took the loaf's fuel. He's good like that. And I suppose one kind of bonus to not going that fast is you don't take a hell of a lot of damage, so pretty healthy truck so far. Yeah, keep trying to. I was eyeballing, I was considering going off onto the grass verge on the left, which, to be fair, I probably should have, really. Because once you're on there, there's certainly a much better chance I would have been able to get into high gear. And then I could have rejoined the road, and then just once I've got my speed and momentum and the revs kind of wound up in high gear, I probably would have been alright carrying along. But yeah, it's just getting after I got out of that swampy section. It's just trying to get enough oomph to even get a chance of putting it in high gear. But as well, this is kind of uphill on a boggy road and yeah, fully loaded trailer and all the rest of it, so not the end of the world. I was obviously feeling a little bit patient with the game tonight. And what, I mean, this whole video's, yeah, 26 and a half. Say it took me about 26 minutes to do the mission. Probably could get it down to about 15, 16 with something like the Dolphin, something that can just drop the hammer all the way. Kind of feels like it needs a little bit more weight at the front as well. I have to investigate putting a loaf. I reckon I could fit a loaf on that. Rear wheels on the roof, front wheels on the bonnet. I reckon it might let me pack it. And again, I was trying to, even just to auto at that point would have been nice. But to be fair, the fact that I kind of, within context, that I know this isn't the best vehicle in the game, it is kind of a highway truck, it's naturally, it's got enough equipment to creep its way through some of these sections, but yeah, it's not kind of built for it, so like I say, it doesn't feel like the game has been a complete troll or anything. It feels pretty organic that the truck just hasn't quite got the oomph. I never knew this, that it had like A+ or whatever on the engine power. I always thought it was S+ for some reason. And again, I don't know how accurate that is, because there's a lot of vehicles in this game that, yeah, weigh as much as hopes and dreams, and so then when it says power to weight, it's like, well, I don't know, what does that mean? If it says S+ on the power to weight, but it weighs as much as a leaf on a tree, then that's not necessarily a lot of power. Like I say, some actual just raw statistics like horsepower or torque or whatever. And the same for the tyres, instead of just bad, good, average, great, whatever the hell it is. Yeah, some actual numbers would be nicer. In the end, there was a little swampy section, so I cut along the grass, managed to get it in high gear, almost made it. But it bogged down on me, so yeah, just stick it in low range for the last little bit. But we made it here. Pretty close on the fuel, but again, I've still got the goddamn horse has got 120 litres. So unload the two consumables, and what I would advise if you do get into this situation where you got a loaf on the trailer, at least unpack the loaf first and then unload the cargo, just to avoid any chance of a bug. However, I wanted to jump the loaf back into the the GMC thing. And of course, he didn't have any fuel when I got back into him. So I had to stock him up. I was trying to just reverse along the metal to get a bit of a run up. He started tipping off, but fling out a panic winch. Lo4f knows what he's doing. He's a goddamn professional for a reason. Drop the hammer. Give it a bit of a yeet. See him squeeze his little nose around as well to line himself back up. Just a goddamn professional. Get yourself a Lo4f. He's made it. Funny thing is, all that as well. Just jumped into the trailer, and all I'm going to do now, drop the 2 metal beams off, and it's like, I'm done. These vehicles will probably sit here for a good old while, but at some point in the future, I mean, there is a contest there. I might come past at some point and need a bit of fuel. And the Lo4f will be there to save the day. So I didn't really point the camera out. I was kind of just, I don't know, autopilot mode with my brain. I thought I might do an animation for the pylon, but it didn't. It just kind of fixed it. And you can see that's the cistern from the other mission of damage evaluation or something. I appreciate, someone said in the comments it's a 5-slot piece of cargo, not a 4-slot, and I believe them, but just while I was here, I just drove the ramped flatbed next to it. And yeah, you can tell it is it's pretty long. That's what she said, of course. Be rude not to. So yeah, I'm not even going to be able to go and get a ramped flatbed. I'll just have to probably go and get an entirely different truck for that. And yeah, that's about it. I just wanted to see the pylon, see what the top looks like. Little pyramid on top, Illuminati confirmed. But yeah, that's about it for today. I hope you enjoyed. I hope that helps. Thanks for watching. Thanks to my Patreon members. Get yourself a Lo4f, because as you can see, he's a goddamn professional. And I'll be back soon.